Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Videomail for the week of July 23rd, 2012. Welcome to the site to all you new people, and welcome back to the old. The Ask Videomail is your chance to get your question in character animation or performance answered in a video just like this one, but I need your question if I'm going to answer it, so please send your questions to webmaster@kennyroy.com. I go through all the questions and answer the ones I think will help the most people. There's no such thing as a stupid question, and it is the best way to get the most out of your subscription here on the site. I even take Maya files. In fact, this week's Ask Videomail has a Maya file you will be able to download and work along with me. So actually, if you haven't gotten the Maya file yet, go ahead and download it below and open it up, and we'll all work together. It's going to be a great time, a lot of fun. So I'm just really excited. This week I put up the Little Painter announcement for the acceptance of applications to work on the film. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the member blog. On the homepage of the member section of KennyRoy.com, there is a link there, or you can just click on the left. It's so hard, I have to point right to do left. I'll never get used to that. Just look on the left. There is a Little Painter in the resources section. It's just a link right there. If you click on that, there's a little bit of information about my short film if you have no idea what I'm talking about. And there's a link to apply there as well. If you don't know about the film, it's really close to my heart. It's an amazing story. It's just a blast to think about and work on and all that stuff. But it's also a very interesting style. It's never been done before, and the reason I am so excited about it is because I feel like you have to really go for a unique style if you want to make it into SIGGRAPH. And obviously my dream is to be chosen as Best in Show. That would automatically make it an Oscar nominee. So anyway, just look out for more updates on that. And for those of you who are a part of the Little Painter production blog, I have not forgotten about you. We just want to make sure that everything is set up in a way that is convenient for you to access, and we want to have some cool stuff up there. So that will be set up. There will be an announcement for that. You won't miss it, okay? But back to the show here. The question this week, like I said, has a Maya file, and I'm actually taking this one on because I had a little bit of feedback sent with the Ask Videomail question. You'll see the question here in 1 second, but the feedback was that this animator wanted to see just a little bit more process. And I say, why not? Let's do it. So let's take a look at the question. So this is very exciting. The process of going from block to spline is it's a different process for everybody. And the first thing I just want to preface all this work with is that when you are deciding on your workflow, which hopefully is an open process, you know, you're picking and choosing the best thing that works for you and finding new things and trying those out. But in general, what I found is that the most successful animators, the ones that are really good and have a workflow that seems like it just works for them, their shots all come together. This transition there's been a lot of thought put into this transition. In my class in Animation Mentor right now, we're going from blocked to spline this week on, all my students are on their shots. One animator though, his workflow is to go back and forth from stepped mode to spline to see how things are looking as he goes. Another one of my students does it the way I do, which is basically work it all up in step mode, kind of like hold your nose and take the plunge and spline everything and then just fix and clean up. Normally though, what I found is that if I do it right, when I go from blocked to from stepped, to spline, that there's not too much that's broken. There's not too much that really gets screwed up or anything. That's kind of how you can tell. Now, if you like to check it, like that one student does over and over and over and see kind of like, okay, this stepped key is producing this kind of spline, and then go back, add a breakdown, and then try it again, whatever. That's fine. I feel like it takes a little bit too much time though. So how do you know when is the right time to spline it? Well, the question itself sort of implies that you have a one moment, like me. There's a moment where you like take the plunge and then you're in stepped or you're in spline mode forever after. The first thing I would say to the student and to everybody who is confused about this, try the other student's method just for a little while, maybe on one shot. Lay a couple keys, put a couple breakdowns, establish the length of the moving holds and stepped, spline it real quick, watch it, go back to stepped. Move the breakdown, maybe add a few more, define things, define arcs, define anticipation, define overlap, overshoot, define these things. Switch to spline, check it out, go back. Maybe a new workflow is just the thing you need, okay? But just in case it's not what you need, we can talk about my method, and I'm just going to open up this scene and take a look at where it is, and we'll decide if maybe there's a different approach, or maybe we just need to take it to a certain point. So let's take a look. Okay, here we go. So here is, it looks like Moom scaling a rock wall. Very cool animation. Very cool. So let's just play it, and right now it's in stepped, and we'll see what we have. Okay, let's watch it from another angle. Not sure where the camera is supposed to be. I don't think there's a camera. No, there's no camera yet. So this is supposed to work kind of in 360 right now. Okay, so what I immediately see is that some of the step keys are not full body. Like, let's see here. Like this. And when you do this, it kind of, for me, screws me up. Because for something so physical, like this kind of movement, scaling a wall, for instance, for something so physical, you have to be very careful where the weight is at all times. So if he is able to lift his arm and leg on this key, then what that kind of implies is that there's no more weight on these limbs. Or if there is, that it immediately, if you let go, immediately the body is going to go as well. So we have a good 5 frames. Sorry, 4 frames. We have a good 4 frames before the body moves. Now, does that mean that the body should be on this transition down here already? So let me undo that, make sure I'm in stepped, because I don't want to screw anything up here. What am I looking for? Preferences. Animation. Default. Out. Stepped. Okay. So on this frame, is it supposed to be kind of coming down here? And notice how I made it down here. So I would define this arc a little bit differently, where he's coming up just a little bit. Okay, so this is probably a good time to talk about how I key everything. I just turn on just your controls. I think Moom has only NURBS curve controls. I could be wrong about that. Some rigs come with controls that are not NURBS curves, which is kind of makes it a pain in the butt. But once I define a full body key pose, I will select everything and I'll hit set key. Okay. Character sets are fine. It effectively does the same thing, although it won't set a key on things like, what's a good example? things that are keyed that are outside the, well, first of all, if it's a not a NURBS curve, it's not going to be selected at all. But some things are not going to be keyed, like some objects that are in the shape node, or some channels that are in the shape node of certain objects actually affect certain things. So like selecting a camera and hitting S on it actually won't set a key on the focal length. That's one thing. So, but I do find that I get pretty predictable results from doing that, okay? So then as we move on, we see that he kind of anticipates down again. So basically what the animator is doing right here is the animator is saying like, okay, on this rock there's a full settle, and then he's prepared to do another anticipation downwards like this, okay? And if you think that that's going by a little bit too fast, I don't necessarily do, but I'm just saying, if you think that's going by a little too fast, then maybe what you want to do is make the anticipation slower and make the jump a little bit faster. Because from here to here, ostensibly he accelerates really quickly and then kind of decelerates, slows into the top pose, right? Let's look at this a little bit more 3D, okay? So he's pulling up here though, which is kind of a little bit of a problem for me. So I feel like we need to add a moment in this animation right here where it's not just anticipation downwards and then pulling upwards, because this is a very weird arc. It's more he's pushing up and against the wall first. And this is just too slow. So I would grab all the keys on this frame. Delete this. I don't see what's keyed on 50, so I'm just going to delete it. And then I would just make this maybe one frame. Let's try one frame, and then definitely play it back. Don't just like scrub through. Just play it back at speed for sure. Is this real time? Yeah. So overall, if you want my overall opinion of this, is that this is very good blocking. It's got a lot of the components in here that I would need to go to spline. But then let's test it out. Okay, I don't see a lot of copied pairs. Like for your longest holds, you can tell like in the blink of an eye like where your long holds are. Right here, and here's another kind of long one. 12 frames. That's pretty long. And then this kind of looks similar. But I don't see any copied pairs though. Meaning, if this was a moving hold that would hold up when I spline it, there would be something over here that's the same thing. Okay. So let's actually look at this moment right here. Okay. So it's actually him pretty stretched out. This is kind of odd for a moving hold. This actually looks like a little resolution in this moment, right? Because there's going to be a lot going on right here. In fact, I probably would put a little bit of kicking with the legs, a little bit of bicycling with the legs in this moment to add a little bit of texture. So he's held on. It might be a hold for 12 frames, but you might be able to get, 3 kicks of the legs in that 12 frames, 4 frame each, 4 frame for each cycle. And then also, definitely if there's a lot of momentum from right to left, you would want another breakdown where you kind of define, where that pendulum swing actually goes to. But anyway, let's just see what happens when we spline it and see what could be done. Yeah, see, it totally falls apart, right? Yeah, so we definitely need to take this a little bit more detailed, define the moving holds a little bit more, define a few more of the transitions, and then test that again and see what we need to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and just run through it real quick and do some of what I just said. So I assume that he doesn't just bullet up there, so we'd need just a little anticipation on this. Okay. And this one can come off just a little bit. And you don't want to go too huge with the head, but just something. I'm actually going to counterpose this anticipation just a little bit in the spine. All right, select everything, key it. Okay, this hand stuck there is freaking me out just a little bit. Super stretched out as well. And this hand being stretched is fine, but I probably wouldn't put it on here yet. Maybe get a little bit more natural, stretch in the spine, using rotation just a little bit more. I love how Moon's spine stretches. And just before we max out that elbow, I would say, right? There it is maxed out, just a hair before we max it out, okay? You never want more than one, maybe sometimes two, but not all four maxed out. So we can max out, let's max out this leg is fine if it's stretched, but then the rest of them, we just want a breath of bend, just a breath, okay? So key everything again. And then this obviously needs a breakdown because he holds this for 12 frames, right? So I'd say that we'd want to kind of define how far he swings in this moment, right? So let's build a little bit of overlap into this leg, right? By having it kind of starting to curl back underneath him. Let's bring the spine a little bit more in line with kind of traditional overlap. Let's figure out where that pull vector is on this elbow that's screwing everything up. Where is it? Here it is. Okay, so his hand's finally up there. All right, let's just see how this is looking. Click. All right, and then about halfway through, this is just whatever your normal breakdown here, would be halfway. Let's just define where this is going to stop swinging. And do a little bit with the foot, right? So the whole leg might come a little bit further in the final animation, but I want to stick to what I think is the midpoint of this breakdown. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting a little bit on the foot instead, okay? And this obviously can't reach the wall yet, but he's trying. He's pushing it out. Nick is in a little bit of an awkward position, but that might be just because his body is a little bit too close. Okay, and then one more breakdown between 18 and 20. Okay, or between 15 and 20. Let's do it on 18. And one trick sometimes I do, very rarely, but sometimes, is just to get a mechanical halfway breakdown, is I will set keys on everything and then spline these two, okay? like with auto, and then hit set key right here, and then step them again, okay? So this is the halfway point according to Maya, right here. So then, because I know that we need to bias our poses, I know that we need to, actually do animation that looks decent, I can bias this. Where is this pole vector? I can bias this pose back towards that breakdown. Just a little bit back towards that breakdown. Although, should he slow in? No, he should probably lift himself up. So it should be pretty even, but not too even. Okay, something like that. Yeah, see, I'm not liking how dead the right foot is looking though. All right, so I'm going to do what I said I was going to do, which is put like a little bit of bicycling in here. So this is actually going to work out well because these legs need something to do. Oops, where is, the pole vectors are so hard to find on Moon. And I'm speed posing right now. I know I'm going fast. Let's bring this one back. To see what that looks like. Okay? Yeah, it looks better. Now what we can do is, see, he hits here and then there's a hold for another 10 frames. So this can actually be, let me delete this, don't need that. This can actually be still an intermediate pose. So let's get this leg still lagging just a little bit behind the party. This one not quite on the wall, but close. And then almost like an overshoot, actually, now that I think about it, almost like an overshoot. But this pole vector is killing me. Yeah, see what that did? Okay. So, cool. So obviously it would take me about, well, how long did it take me to do the little painter shot? 24 hours to do the entire thing, start to finish. So I think it took me about 6 hours to block that 15-second shot. So obviously how long is this also? 120, so it's 5 seconds. So this should ostensibly take me about 2 hours to go through. So, and I just spent, I think, about 15 minutes on it. So as you can see, it's just mostly a matter of going in and deciding how much definition do I need, and going in and like by the truest definition of the word definition. God, that got confusing quickly. By the truest definition of the word, define the moments that I need. Turn what looks like into what looks like a moving hold, or a hold that's not supposed to be there, into a little bit, make the beginning part of it a little bit of overshoot, almost like what we just did there. So he kicks his legs and gets up to that ledge, and then that was on frame 20, but then on frame 25, which used to be just a moving, or just a hold rather, having him come back just a little bit. So he kicks up and gets back right there. So if we spline that, it'll be a lot closer to what we need, but still not quite enough. Blocking is a process that you kind of are only done when you get what you need from the shot. actually. So that means that when you have a character that is doing something really, really, really slowly, or it's a very subtle, small performance shot, you kind of need to get to that subtlety that you can only see in splines. And having step keys on a character that's like literally sitting still, that's not going to help you at all. So blocking for that shot will go way quicker. You'd be right into splines a lot sooner. But with a very physical shot, especially one like this, where you're actually in open space and you have a lot to define, you have a lot of arcs to define. It's very weird because it's on a rock wall, but you also have like moments where is it a moving hold? What is a moving hold on a rock wall? Because it takes a lot of strength. All those questions to answer, you have to define the answers to those questions, okay? And the moment to go to splining is when you have all the answers you need from your shot. Okay, so go ahead and download that shot and play with it and see if you can get your answers from the keyframes. All right, and have a great time. And for everyone else that's having that problem where you're splining stuff and maybe it's all exploding, maybe it's time to try that other workflow where you spline it and go back to spline step, and kind of like work through your shot slower with that kind of testing in mind, okay? Great question. Thank you for sending the Maya file. It was a lot of fun. Cool. If you want to participate in the Ask Videomail, it's open for all members, and it's the best way to get the most out of your subscription here. Just send your question to webmaster@kennyroy.com. I look forward to reading it. That's all for this week. Good luck with your animation, and as always, rock on.